Sorry. I hope I have too many glasses in this. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please kindly ask you to take your seats for the very short, we promised you, very short final session. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you. Right. I do understand, and I believe everybody understands, that this is the end of 2 relatively long days with lots of information, hopefully interesting discussions and exchanges. So I would like to welcome you for the last session. This time we decided to change a little bit the format of the last session. Instead of making an overview of what the results are and what the major, let's say, consensuses or findings are, to have a short discussion. And for this, I have the big pleasure here to have with us Philippe Froissart. I'm sure that most of you do know well Philippe, but I was impressed by seeing that Philippe Froissart, being the head of unit with a very impressive name of future urban mobility, or similar, I hope I'm not, but I also was impressed by seeing that Philippe is a nuclear physicist, actually, with a background in nuclear engineering. And we had a very short exchange, and I think there is the need of engineers and scientists in these areas of research, of the research directorate in the European Commission, because the topics we are dealing with are really very challenging and difficult. So I would like to welcome you, Philippe, for this discussion. And
thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and thanks for joining us. As you know, we have exchanged and we have prepared a couple of questions for both of us. So allow me to start. And the starting point will be really to touch upon the contribution of road transport research activities to achieve the EU policy objectives, in particular Green Deal objectives. So the EU Green Deal and the smart and sustainable mobility strategy has very tough targets for 2030 and 2050, in particular for road mobility. So in the current geopolitical context, where we have a war in the outskirts of Europe, actually, of the European Union, at the borders of the European Union, and where the independence in terms of energy becomes even more important, how can we ensure that Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020, whatever remains, and in particular Horizon Europe, can support this transition towards independent, if you want, energy sources, and of course, even more importantly, renewable? How do you see this contribution of research and innovation towards these targets?
Thank you, Zilis. You're right to raise these issues in the present context that we are in. I think yesterday, as you recalled, just now, we were given the objectives that we have in the Union. You mentioned the Green Deal. I mean, let's face it, these are very challenging objectives. 90% reduction of emissions for the transport sector by 2050. To have the continent climate neutral by 2050. To have, if we take the sustainable and smart mobility strategy, clear objectives and targets as regards the number of vehicles we want to see on the road, zero emission vehicles. We have clear targets in the Fit for 55 package that we have put forward last year on the reduction of greenhouse gas that we want to see in the road transport sector in particular. And these are clear targets for which we need technical solutions. The good news is that we have a program that contributes to supporting these technological solutions, which is actually Horizon Europe. We have substantial budget that is allocated to these issues of energy, climate, and transport. We have a cluster for that, cluster 5, which with a budget of 15 billion euro over the next 7 years, so that's very important. So we need to invest in new technological solutions and deploy these technological solutions as quickly as possible so that we can meet our objectives, our political objectives that we have in the Green Deal, the Fit for 55, and the Smart and Sustainable Mobility Strategy. So how do we do that? Usually when I present Horizon Europe, I say that there are the different activities that we can use as a community of researchers from the transport sector that go beyond what we have in Cluster 5. And I think I take this opportunity of this meeting, this closing event today, to repeat that in a way that we have, and you know very well that there are genuine opportunities for developing new technological solutions via the partnerships that we have in Cluster 5. But Cluster 5 is not the only entry point that you can use and you should consider when you want to support research activities in this domain. And there are actually opportunities along the whole range of TRL that we have in Horizon Europe, from low TRL level with the more pioneer and frontier research that we can support in mobility, in the RC and the Marie Curie actions, for instance, but also in activities that are supporting more the scaling up of innovative SMEs with the EIC program. So please keep in mind that there are opportunities in many parts of the program. Now we have Cluster 5, and within Cluster 5, we want to invest in research via the partnerships. Why do we want to use partnerships for that, in that context, to address the challenges that we have? Is because these partnerships, they provide medium-term strategy and visibility and sustainable support that we can provide. It's about research and innovation, for sure. But we have to take into account also that we want to support, to have a sufficient leverage and impact on the activities that we have, and the partnership provide this impact because they are big. I mean, if we take the examples of the CCAM and 2.0, we are talking about budgets of the order of 500 million or 600 million. For the battery partnership, we are talking about 900 million, so a significant budget that is allocated from the Horizon Europe program to those partnerships so that we have impact. And let's not forget that those partnerships are driven by impact. All partnerships have to design KPIs, for instance. And there is a leverage that will be ensured via the partnership, via the contribution of the members of the partnership. And I think this is also something which is important because alone we cannot fulfill our objectives, and we need the support of the industry, we need the support of the research organizations that are involved in addressing these challenges. We also need the support of the member states, and the partnerships to a large extent offer this opportunity. So we are well equipped with Horizon Europe as a program to tackle the challenges ahead of us so that we can fulfill our objectives, our political objectives in Europe.
Thank you, Philippe. I know it's your time now to ask my question, but I think yes. I would like to continue with because
I am allowed to remove my mask, and I'm going to take that right.
Yes, which I did it already.
Okay.
I tried to give you the signal, but you wanted somebody else. Nevertheless, what I want to say is, yes, you already mentioned 49 partnerships.
Yeah.
That's a very large number. Also,
well, we had many more before.
Sorry?
We had many more before, so in a way we have reduced that number.
But still, the number is very big. In addition, you have other initiatives, missions. You also have a very large number of projects.
Yeah.
We, all together collectively, actually. So the question is synergies. How do we ensure that all these different activities that may at the same time have their own targets do not go their own directions, but they do all somehow exchange and are kept all together for the same target, the targets that you just mentioned. So how do you see the role of DG, RTD, but also of the Commission as a whole, to keep all those things in the same boat?
Yeah, you're right to mention the number of partnerships. That is something that initially we wanted 25 partnerships in Horizon Europe, if you remember.
Yeah.
And as it happens, as always with this kind of process, you end up adding new partnerships in the process. That was limited to 49, but you might argue that 49 is still a large number. If we take cluster 5 specifically, we have 11 partnerships of different size and shapes. So we have actually the three types of partnerships in cluster 5, not necessarily in the transport sector, but in the other sector that we are supporting in that cluster. And it goes without saying that synergies with the partnerships is something that should go without any problem. Also because this is something that was foreseen from the start. If you look at the strategic research innovation agendas of the partnerships, they all have a section on synergy. So from the start, from the onset of the development of those partnerships, it was foreseen that the partnership should work in close collaboration with each other. We have good examples of that, incidentally. In the work program 21-22, we had already engineered joint activities between the battery partnership and the 2.0 partnership, which on paper makes perfect sense because you have the partnership of battery providing the components that can be integrated in the vehicles that will be developed by 2.0. And we are going to repeat this initiative, so there will be more joint actions between these partnerships. Yesterday, Rosalind mentioned as well the synergy that we are developing between those partnerships, 2.0 and SECAM, with the city's mission. And there again, it goes without saying, if you want to address urban mobility, if you want to support the cities that move towards climate neutrality, you need to deploy on the ground solutions that can only come from partnerships. So this interaction with the 2.0 partnership and the SECAM partnerships is obvious, but needs to take place. And I think we have managed to bring around the table the different actors of those partnerships and the missions so that they could develop together an action that will be implemented jointly. But when it comes to the interaction with the other partnerships, we set up what we call an inter-partnership assembly, which involve all the different partnerships that we have in Horizon Europe. And that's actually a good platform for the partnerships to exchange information when they are already developing their work programs, which means that they can already identify areas of common interest where they can come together and develop joint activities. It's easier for some partnerships than some others. It goes without saying that if you want to interact with partnerships like that are joint undertakings and co-program partnerships, since the modalities of implementation of the activities are different, it will not be as simple as developing a joint action between two co-program partnerships. But it is possible, and we can do it without any problem. So this inter-partnership assembly is important if you want to develop jointly some activities in the work program, but also there is a possibility, and this is something that we will push for, to have also cooperation and interaction between the projects that are selected as a result of these activities that we have in the work programs. And there, I think it's very important for CINEA, the agency that will be managing all these activities, to be involved as well, because they will be able to engineer or cluster some of the projects that are working on common areas, so as to facilitate the exchange of information. So, in a way, the RTR conference that we have today, and that we had yesterday, is also a very good example or opportunities to bring together research stakeholders or research organizations that are involved in those projects. The other point that, for instance, one of the areas where we could develop more cooperation with specific partnerships is with KDT, Key Digital Technology. It makes sense, it makes perfect sense for the transport sector because, for instance, for the development of new battery management systems, we need chips, we need components that have to be developed, and KDT can contribute to that. Same for SECAM, same for 2.0. So we need to engineer this cooperation with partnerships like KDT for the mobility partnerships. The last element that I would like to mention is the fact that we also have, as I said before, the member states involved. And the fact that they are in the partnerships give the possibility for those representatives of the member states to align and provide opportunities for the researchers and the research communities that have been involved in the projects that we are supporting through the partnership for scaling up their solutions and deploying them on the ground. And this interaction with the member states, and possibly through synergy, which could be done at the level of the program managers of those programs in member states, is something that we should be able to support in Horizon Europe as well.
You know, this gives me the opportunity to jump in a little bit and to give an additional dimension to this discussion. And this discussion is, and this element is the research and innovation centers of excellence that have been created in Europe over the years. We have been given the opportunity with colleagues, and I see a few around, to analyze the participation and the results over the last maybe 10 years of the different green vehicles projects, but also we try to relate those activities and the partners with paper production, papers, refereed papers with impact, with relatively high impact factors, but also with patent production, and to see how those elements go together, if they go together, and what are the pictures that we can get from this kind of analysis. What I mean is that we deployed what is called structure analysis of, this is relatively used very much in the so-called the Facebook and the social media analysis. This is technologies, more mathematical analysis that are being used on different approaches to develop a visualization of the system, because sometimes it's so chaotic, it's very difficult to see. And based on this type of analysis, and actually focusing this analysis to areas that we know very well, for example, the internal combustion engine. This is, I hope it will continue being the stronghold of Europe in terms of science and research, in order to demonstrate how those things have developed, which things, the research and innovation centers of excellence. And we saw that there are centers across Europe which have a very heavy weight, which really at the same time they are in the position to play the role of a clearinghouse of knowledge, of expertise, and also to bridge with newcomers of high quality. And the question really is, maybe there is a statement and then a question. The statement is that in addition to what the European Commission does, the member states do, the industry does, or the private sector, is that these centers, they have developed over time, and they are there, and they play a connecting role over time. And at the same time, I think we have very clear data that indicate that they are able to adapt and to change, and to adapt to the new situations. To cut the very long story, the very long introduction to a short question to you again. Do you see a role? And how does the Commission, from within the overall system of Horizon Europe and other initiatives, how do you put in the equation these centers? How do we continue funding and keep the knowledge in Europe increasing our competitiveness? Is there some additional thinking about?
Yes, I think the centers of excellence are essential for Europe, needless to say. I mean, they are those that you are referring to are focusing more specifically on transport and mobility. But we have them actually in quite many fields as well in Europe. And they have opportunities within Horizon Europe to get support, to maintain their level of capacity. And I think also to share their capacity, their expertise with more centers, more universities all across Europe. And I think there is a role to be played by those centers in ensuring that we bridge the gap, the technological gap, the innovation gap with a number of member states that are lacking this expertise and capacity. So there are programs and initiatives that we have in Horizon Europe, needless to say, to help these sharing of experience between these centers, and also develop or build capacities in a number of member states which do not have access to these centers of excellence and do not have these centers of excellence. So they are essential for me in order to maintain and to keep the level of excellence that we have in Europe in the transport sector for specifically, but more generally in all the research innovation domains that we have to support in Europe. So clearly a big role. Of course, they can play a big role also in the consortia that are prepared and to respond to the calls and the topics that we have in the work program. And I think it adds value to the projects that eventually will be selected. I would like these centers of excellence also to be involved in the partnerships. And I think, all the partnerships have a strong industry dimension, but they have also a lot of research organizations. And I think it would make sense as well for some of these centers of excellence to be more active in the development of the strategic research innovation agendas that we want to implement in the partnerships and in the implementation of those strategic research innovation agendas.
They definitely are, of course, as you may expect. They are already there. They are networks relatively stable over time. They play a very important role in Horizon Europe, in producing research results, in putting together additional information. But what I wanted only as a message, and as a wish, actually, to put, is that maybe they have to be nurtured separately by Europe. Maybe, I don't know, competition, additional prizes. There were some prizes that, these are just ideas for the time being, they were launched for particular topics. Maybe we can think, and to a certain extent, we can think of the basis of what other countries do, like what they do in the United States, where excellence is really very much appreciated, which is not, it is the case in Europe, of course, but probably the United States is a little bit ahead in this. Nevertheless, thank you for all this. I think you already mentioned the RTR conference, this conference here, right?
Yes, but I think, it's a question that I can actually put to you as well, in a sense that RTR conference is not a new conference. There has been already a number of editions of that conference. I personally think that it's very important and very interesting to have such events such as RTR, so that we can bring together the communities, the stakeholders that are involved in the projects. It's important for them to present, to communicate. Yesterday, there was a big plea that was made in the opening session on communication, dissemination. The RTR conference contributes to this. But first and foremost, for me, the RTR conference is an opportunity for researchers to meet, to exchange information, because this is usually the first step that goes towards the development of new ideas, new proposals that could eventually be submitted. And this kind of event, we could not have physical events for a number of years now, so I'm very happy that this time the organizers of the event delayed by a few months the organization of the RTR 2021, because it's still called 2021, despite the fact that we are in March 2022, so that we confuse everyone. But these events, for me, I would, and for the Commission services, we will keep on supporting in the future. So I see a big role in having this kind of activities and events. What I would like to see in a foreseeable future, and basically as soon as possible, is also representative of projects that have been launched, and not only projects that are very mature and have results to present, because that is indeed very important. But it's also important, in my view, to bring together the different actors that are launching new initiatives, that are, for instance, the projects that we have in Horizon Europe, the new projects that are being supported, and to have them integrating the RTR conference as soon as possible. I don't think we should wait for 3-4 years before they produce significant results, to have them around the table so that they can also learn from the experience and the knowledge that the consortia from the previous projects of Horizon 2020 have developed and can present in the context of this RTR conference. So we need to expand. Now Horizon 2020 is finished. I'm saying that to people that are actually managing projects of Horizon 2020, so they might feel a little bit disappointed. But there is a Horizon Europe. We are going to select hundreds of projects in Horizon Europe, and I would like them to be very quickly integrated into the community of the RTR conference.
Very good. Actually, I'm very glad. I just only wanted to remind that this idea started from AirTrack, actually, and I'm very glad to hear that the Commission has adopted it and is supporting it. And in my view, this conference is considered to a certain extent as a one-stop shop. So if you want to know what's going on in terms of Horizon Europe's Horizon 2020, central research activities in Europe, in road transport, that's the place to go.
I agree.
So thank you very much. Before we close this conference, I would like really, it will be a big mistake if I don't make some specific reference and really warm thank to all those who have substantially contributed to this activity with a lot of commitment and a lot of, I would say, devotion. So I think it would be a big mistake if I didn't start by thanking very much the EGVIA 420, the SICAM and the RTR offices who really have put all the efforts here, and very particularly Lucy Baumel, since she was and always is in the heart of the conference. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Marzena. Thank you, Xavier, for so much, for putting so much effort. Evidently, all speakers, and of course their valuable presentations, they are to be thanked for their participation and their commitment into this. The EGVIA 420, SICAM Association, and AirTrack board members who are also very actively supporting it. The European Commission for their support, we heard about it already, in the organization, including particularly Guido, Michal, Erika, and Urbano, who are always behind this conference. Yes, because there are names, there are people behind all these activities. These things do not happen on their own. So Angelica from FEL, Sebastian, Alexia, and Ines from Polis, they were here, they were around, helping in everything. Thank you again for your support and your determination. Last but not least, I would like to thank in particular Bianca from the AirTrack and EGVIA communication officer, or as an EGVIA and AirTrack communication officer. She is everywhere, behind everything. Thank you, Bianca, for this excellent support. And of course, the event couldn't be a success without you, your participation, and your commitment and understanding of the mistakes and maybe what we are missing. We hope that you have enjoyed this conference as much as we did, and we really hope to see you again. Next year, actually next year, it will be really next year. The plan is for beginning of 2023, maybe January, end of January or something like that. So in 2024, we're back in December, slowly. That's the first idea. However, what I heard from Philip about integrating already Horizon Europe, this may give a different perspective. So, but the general plan is for January 23. Thank you again. And for those who leave, have a nice trip back. Thank you.